Air Force One doesn't just fly the president, it survives nuclear wars, secret escape pods, midair refueling that never ends, and a price tag that'll make your jaw drop. These are 20 weird things about Air Force One, and the bonus? Let's just say even the toilet is classified. Buckle up, this flight is top secret. Air Force One isn't actually one specific airplane like most people think. It's a call sign, which is basically a radio name. Any Air Force plane carrying the president automatically becomes Air Force One the second he steps on board. If he flies on a Navy plane, it becomes Navy One instead. If he takes a Marine helicopter, that's Marine One for the whole flight. The famous blue and white Boeing 747 everyone recognizes is technically called VC-25A by the Air Force. There are actually two identical planes kept ready at all times. Both have the same equipment, same paint job, and same everything. If one breaks down or needs repairs, the other one is always ready to go immediately. When the president flies on a civilian commercial plane, which has happened before, it becomes Executive One for that trip. The call sign follows the man, not the machine itself. Operating Air Force One costs American taxpayers over $200,000 for every single hour it's in the air. That's more than most people earn in an entire year of working. A trip from Washington, D.C. to California costs over $2 million just in flight time alone. That doesn't even include the support planes, helicopters, security teams, and all the other costs. The plane burns through thousands of gallons of expensive jet fuel every hour while flying across the country. Maintenance costs millions more every single year to keep both planes in perfect condition. The Air Force employs over 100 people just to take care of these two planes full time. Every time the president wants to fly somewhere, it costs more than buying a nice house. Some critics say it's too expensive, but security experts say you can't put a price on protecting the president. The total program costs American taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars every single year to operate and maintain. Air Force One is built to survive a nuclear bomb going off on the ground below it. The entire plane is wrapped in special armor and shielding that blocks radiation and electromagnetic pulses. If nuclear war started while the president was flying, he could keep commanding the military from the air safely. The windows are specially made and can't be broken by bullets or explosions below. The plane has reinforced floors and walls that are much thicker than regular planes. All the electronic systems are hardened against the electromagnetic pulse that nuclear bombs create. This pulse normally fries all electronics instantly, but Air Force One's computers would keep working perfectly. The plane was designed during the Cold War when nuclear war with Russia seemed possible any day. Engineers tested it against simulated nuclear blasts to make sure it would survive. The president could run the entire country and military from the sky during World War III if it ever happened. Air Force One has a complete medical suite that's basically a flying emergency room in the sky. There's an operating table, surgical equipment, and enough medical supplies to handle almost any emergency. A military doctor travels on every single flight in case something goes wrong with anyone on board. The medical area can handle everything from heart attacks to gunshot wounds at 40,000 feet. They keep blood stored on board that matches the president's blood type for emergencies. The doctor can perform surgery while the plane is flying at 600 miles per hour. There are also medicines and equipment to handle biological or chemical weapon attacks. If the president gets sick or injured anywhere in the world, they can treat him immediately without landing. The medical suite has its own communication system to talk to hospitals on the ground for advice. Former President George H.W. Bush once needed medical attention on board, and they handled it perfectly without any problems. The inside of Air Force One has 4,000 square feet of space spread across 3 different levels. That's bigger than most people's entire houses or apartments. The president has his own private bedroom with a real bed, not an airplane seat. There's also a private bathroom with a shower so he can clean up during long flights. His office in the sky has computers, phones, and everything needed to run the country from anywhere. The plane has a conference room where the president can meet with advisors and make important decisions. There's a medical suite, a communication center, and even a small gym for exercise. The staff has their own areas with seats that turn into beds for sleeping. Secret Service agents have their own section close to the president at all times. Reporters who travel with the president sit in the back section and pay their news companies for the seat. The plane can hold up to 102 people total, including crew, staff, guests, and security. Air Force One has 2 full kitchens called Galleys that can prepare meals for 100 people at once. The chefs can make anything the president wants to eat, from simple sandwiches to fancy 5-star meals. They store enough food on board to feed everyone for a week without landing or getting more supplies. The head chef is a military member who goes through intense training and background checks. They know exactly what the president likes and doesn't like to eat from detailed notes. The kitchens have regular ovens, microwaves, and everything a restaurant kitchen would have on the ground. Fresh food is loaded before every flight, and they can prepare 100 meals in a single sitting. President Trump loved his steaks well done with ketchup, which the chefs made perfectly. President Obama preferred healthy meals with lots of vegetables and lean protein. The dining area has a table where the president can eat with guests or staff while flying. They even have fancy china plates with the Air Force One seal printed on them. Air Force One can refuel while flying through a process called aerial refueling from tanker planes. A special tanker plane flies close and extends a long hose with fuel to Air Force One. The pilot carefully connects to the hose while both planes fly at exactly the same speed. Fuel pumps from the tanker into Air Force One's tanks without ever landing on the ground. This means the plane can technically fly forever as long as tankers keep coming with more fuel. The Air Force practices this complicated maneuver regularly to make sure pilots can do it perfectly. If there's an emergency on the ground like a terrorist attack, the president never has to land. He could stay in the air for days or even weeks with tankers providing fuel the whole time. The plane also carries enough fuel to fly 7,800 miles without refueling once. That's enough to fly from Washington, D.C. to Tokyo, Japan without stopping. But with mid-air refueling, distance doesn't matter at all anymore. There are rumors that Air Force One has a secret escape pod for the president in case of emergency. The pod would separate from the plane if it was going to crash or get shot down. It would parachute safely to the ground with the president inside protected from the impact. The Air Force has never confirmed or denied this rumor officially because it's classified information. Engineers say it's technically possible to build such a system into the plane's design. Some reports claim the escape pod is located in the area near the president's private office. Other reports say the whole presidential section can separate like a giant escape capsule. Aviation experts argue about whether this technology really exists or if it's just a myth. The Air Force keeps many details about Air Force One secret for security reasons. If an escape pod exists, we probably won't know about it until the planes are retired. What we do know is that protecting the president is the #1 priority no matter what. Almost everything about Air Force One is classified as top secret by the military and government. The exact defensive systems on board are completely secret and never discussed publicly. We don't know all the weapons or countermeasures the plane has to defend against missiles. The communication systems are secret, so enemies can't jam or intercept presidential calls. Even the route the plane takes is kept secret until after the president lands safely. The Air Force never announces when Air Force One takes off or where it's flying until it arrives. Tour guides at the museum with the old Air Force One can't answer detailed questions about systems. Mechanics who work on the plane need top secret security clearance from the government. They can't tell their own families what they do at work every day. Reporters on board aren't allowed to take photos of certain areas or equipment. The exact cost of building the new Air Force One planes is even classified information. The government says releasing details could help terrorists plan attacks against the president. Air Force One has an incredible 238 miles of electrical wiring running throughout the entire plane. That's enough wire to stretch from Washington, D.C. to New York City without running out. All that wiring connects thousands of different systems, computers, radios, and equipment on board. The communication systems alone take up miles and miles of specialized wiring throughout the plane. Every phone, computer, television, and electronic device needs wires to work properly. The wiring has special shielding to protect against electromagnetic pulses from nuclear weapons. Installing all that wiring during construction took months of careful work by skilled technicians. Each wire is color-coded and labeled so mechanics know exactly what it does. If one wire fails, they need to find it among 238 miles of other wires. The electrical system is backed up multiple times, so if one system fails, others take over. Boeing employed teams of engineers just to design where every wire would go inside the plane. Modern Air Force One has even more wiring than older versions because of new technology added. Air Force One never flies by itself without protection from other military planes nearby. Fighter jets often escort the president's plane through dangerous airspace around the world. Cargo planes fly ahead, carrying the president's armored limousine and security vehicles to each destination. A backup 747 often flies the same route in case the main plane has mechanical problems. Sometimes both identical 747s fly together, and only the Secret Service knows which one the president is actually on. This tricks enemies who might want to track or attack the president's plane. Military cargo planes carry helicopters, cars, and tons of security equipment to every stop. The fighter jets would shoot down any plane or missile that threatened Air Force One. The escorts change depending on where in the world the president is flying. Over friendly countries like England, fewer escorts are needed for protection. Over dangerous areas, many fighter jets surround Air Force One at all times. The entire operation involves dozens of planes and hundreds of military and security personnel. The new Air Force One planes being built right now will cost $5.3 billion total. That's billion with a B, which is an absolutely mind-blowing amount of money. President Trump complained the original price was too high and negotiated it down personally. Boeing is modifying two 747-8 planes into the new presidential aircraft right now. The planes were originally ordered by a Russian airline that went bankrupt and never took delivery. The Air Force bought them at a discount and is now adding all the presidential equipment. Each plane is being completely gutted and rebuilt from scratch on the inside. They're adding the defensive systems, communication equipment, medical suites, and everything else needed. The project has been delayed several times and is now years behind schedule. The new planes were supposed to be ready in 2024, but probably won't fly until 2026 or later. Critics say $5.3 billion is way too much money for two airplanes. Supporters say you can't cheap out on protecting the President of the United States. The current planes are over 30 years old and desperately need to be replaced soon. Air Force One has 85 telephones installed throughout the plane for communication. The president can call anyone in the world from 40,000 feet in the air. The phones are specially encrypted so nobody can listen in on private conversations. He can call other world leaders, military commanders, or his family anytime during flight. The communication systems are the most advanced in the world and never fail. There are dozens of radios, computers, and satellite systems keeping the president connected constantly. The plane has its own cell tower, so regular cell phones work inside. Staff members can make calls just like they would from an office building. The communications center has equipment that costs millions of dollars per plane. Specialists monitor all the systems 24 hours a day to make sure nothing goes wrong. The president can even do secure video conferences while flying across the ocean. During the 9/11 terrorist attacks, President Bush commanded the response from Air Force One using these phones. The systems worked perfectly during the most stressful day in modern American history. News reporters who travel with the president on Air Force One have to pay for their seats. Their news companies get charged the equivalent of a first-class commercial ticket for the same route. This can cost thousands of dollars per flight depending on where they're going. CNN, NBC, ABC, and other networks take turns sending reporters on presidential trips. The reporters sit in the back section of the plane away from the president's area. They can't walk around or go to other sections without permission from staff. Sometimes the president invites them forward for questions or informal interviews during the flight. The reporters see the same basic airplane interior as passengers on regular planes. They don't get access to the fancy areas like the president's office or bedroom. The White House decides which reporters get seats on each flight. Usually major networks get priority over smaller news organizations. Photographers also pay to fly along and take pictures of presidential events. The money collected from reporters goes back to the government to help offset costs. Some reporters have flown on Air Force One hundreds of times covering different presidents. Air Force One flew through radioactive airspace after the Chernobyl nuclear disaster in 1986. President Reagan was returning from a summit in Japan and had to fly over the contaminated area. The plane's radiation detection systems alerted the crew to the dangerous levels below. The crew measured radiation levels and determined it was safe to fly through at high altitude. The special shielding and filters protected everyone on board from the radiation. Air Force One's systems worked exactly as designed during the emergency. The plane collected air samples samples that helped scientists understand the disaster better. This proved that Air Force One could really survive flying through nuclear fallout safely. Engineers had designed the radiation protection, but this was a real test. The plane passed through successfully without anyone on board getting sick from radiation. This incident is often classified as proof the nuclear protection systems work. The filters and shielding got tested again during later nuclear accidents around the world. Air Force One remains one of the few planes specifically designed to fly through nuclear war. Air Force One has separate temperature controls for every room and section of the plane. The president can set his office to whatever temperature he likes best. The bedroom can be cooler or warmer than the rest of the plane. Staff areas have their own climate control, so everyone is comfortable working. The system can handle anything from Arctic cold to desert heat outside. Former President Obama liked his office very warm, almost 75 degrees according to staff. President Trump preferred cooler temperatures in his working areas. The plane has powerful air conditioning and heating systems throughout. Even when flying through extremely cold high altitude, every room stays perfectly comfortable. The system filters all the air multiple times per hour for freshness. Special filters remove bacteria, viruses, and even chemical weapon agents from outside air. The president breathes the cleanest air possible at all times during flight. The environmental systems are backed up, so they never fail completely. If one system breaks, another one takes over immediately without anyone noticing. Secret Service agents always fly on Air Force One to protect the president constantly. They have their own section of the plane close to the president's areas. The agents are armed and ready to respond to any threat immediately. They inspect the plane completely before the president boards every single time. Bomb-sniffing dogs check every inch of the plane for explosives before each flight. The Secret Service decides who can and cannot get on the plane for security. They run background checks on everyone, including staff, reporters, and guests. Agents sit in specific positions to watch all the doors and entrances. Some agents are trained pilots who could fly the plane in an emergency. The Secret Service coordinates with fighter pilots and other security forces during flight. They have direct communication with military commanders and FBI agents on the ground. During presidential trips, dozens of agents fly on support planes following Air Force One. The protection continues after landing with motorcades and security teams everywhere. Secret Service agents have protected every president on Air Force One since it started flying. Air Force One has defensive flares it can shoot out to protect against heat-seeking missiles. If a missile is fired at the plane, sensors detect it immediately. The system automatically shoots out super hot flares that confuse the missile. The missile chases the hot flares instead of the plane's engines and misses. The plane carries dozens of these flares loaded and ready at all times. Other defensive systems on board are classified, but we know they exist. There are likely systems to jam enemy radar so they can't track the plane. Electronic countermeasures can confuse missiles and make them miss their target. The plane might have systems to detect when enemy radars lock onto it. Some reports claim Air Force One has lasers that can blind or destroy incoming missiles. The Air Force refuses to confirm or deny what defensive weapons exist on board. What we know for sure is that protecting the president from attack is the top priority. The plane has been upgraded many times with new defensive technology. No missile has ever come close to hitting Air Force One in history. Every president customizes Air Force One to match their personal preferences and style. President Kennedy first added the famous blue and white paint scheme in 1962. Before that, the planes were plain silver like regular Air Force planes. Jackie Kennedy worked with designers to create the elegant look we recognize today. President Reagan added upgraded communication systems and new technology in the 1980s. President Clinton had new furniture and decorations installed to match his taste. President George W. Bush added more secure video conference equipment after 9/11. President Obama upgraded the entertainment systems and added new computers throughout. President Trump wanted to repaint the planes red, white, and blue, but never did it. Each president picks the food served, the movies available, and the music played. The president chooses which staff members fly along on each trip. Some presidents work constantly during flights, while others prefer to relax. President Reagan liked to watch movies in his private cabin during long flights. The plane adapts to each president's working style and personal habits. Air Force One has appeared in many movies and TV shows over the decades. The most famous is the 1997 movie Air Force One, starring Harrison Ford as the president. That movie showed the plane getting hijacked by terrorists, though this could never happen in real life. The TV show The West Wing featured Air Force One in many episodes accurately. Independence Day showed Air Force One escaping from alien attacks in 1996. Olympus Has Fallen and White House Down both featured the presidential plane in action scenes. Documentaries about the presidency always include footage of Air Force One taking off and landing. News coverage shows the plane almost every time the president travels anywhere. The plane has become a symbol of American presidential power around the world. Kids can buy toy models of Air Force One in stores and online. The plane appears in video games where you can fly it yourself. Air Force One is probably the most recognizable airplane in the entire world. Even people who aren't interested in planes recognize it immediately when they see it. Even the toilets on Air Force One are specially designed and classified. They're more advanced than regular airplane bathrooms with better systems. The waste system is sealed and secured so nothing can leak or be tracked. Some reports claim the toilets have special features to prevent biological weapon attacks through the plumbing. The bathroom fixtures are made from better materials than normal planes. The president's private bathroom has nicer features than the ones staff use. Everything about the plane is built to higher standards than regular aircraft. The toilet paper probably costs more than regular toilet paper, though that's classified too. Cleaning the bathrooms requires security clearance because workers see classified areas. The Air Force has thought of literally everything when designing this plane. No detail is too small when it comes to protecting and serving the president. Even something as basic as a toilet becomes special on Air Force One. From nuclear blast protection to 85 phones, Air Force One proved that flying the president means thinking of absolutely everything. This incredible plane keeps America's leaders safe, connected, and ready for anything at 40,000 feet. If these secrets amazed you, smash that like button and subscribe for more classified facts they don't teach in school.